Welcome to this explainer on the essentials of thesis writing. If you're an English language teaching scholar, or really any grad student wading through quantitative research, you definitely know the feeling. You've spent months meticulously designing your study, you've collected all this data, you ran it through your statistical software, and now you're just staring at a mountain of numbers, secretly hoping they'll magically arrange themselves into a thesis. Well, today we are going to conquer the absolute most intimidating part of your quantitative thesis, writing the results and discussion chapters. We're going to take all that raw output and transform it into a compelling, academically rigorous narrative. There's a quote from the methodology sources that honestly hits the nail on the head. Data analysis alone does not constitute research. It's funny because so many methodology books out there will gladly teach you the math. They teach you how to click the buttons and run the statistics, but then they just leave you hanging. But as top-tier universities like Cambridge and Oxford make crystal clear, they expect you to actually interpret that output. They don't just want you to drop a massive data table into your document and call it a day. You have to translate the math into actual meaning. To get us there, we've got a really clear roadmap. We're going to look at the thesis writing gap, how to structure your results chapter, presenting your data effectively, decoding those inferential statistics, mastering the discussion chapter, and finally, doing that crucial final polish. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the thesis writing gap. So, what is this gap exactly? It's the massive difference between just reporting the math and actually telling a meaningful educational story. I see this all the time. The biggest trap for grad students is basically turning into a human calculator. You might have found a p-value of 0.021, but what does that actually mean for a real English language classroom? Institutions demand that you integrate your statistical evidence with pedagogical implications in existing literature. You aren't just proving a hypothesis here. You're actively contributing to the field of education. Moving right along to section 2. Let's talk about structuring your results chapter from the ground up. There is a golden rule that pops up constantly across top universities. Your results chapter is exclusively for showing exactly what the data revealed, just the objective facts. It's not about what you hoped to find, and it's not about what it means for the future of education, just the facts. Oh, and here's a huge pro tip from the literature. Always present your findings in the exact same order as your research questions. If your first research question is about vocabulary, your first results section is about vocabulary. Make it literally impossible for your reviewers to get lost. To keep things super clean and logical, you're going to want to organize your findings using 4 specific steps. Step 1, outline your demographic information. Who actually took part? Step 2, reliability analysis. Were your instruments actually solid? Step 3, descriptive statistics. We're talking basic averages and standard deviations. And step 4, the heavy lifting, your inferential statistics. Layering it exactly like this means your reader won't get completely overwhelmed. You're basically walking them into the deep end of the data pool slowly. So for example, when you're tackling that first step with the demographics, use a really clear visual. Something like a simple chart immediately shows your participant characteristics. Instead of bogging your reader down in a super dense paragraph, they can just instantly understand that, say, 68.3% of your participants hold a B1 English proficiency level. It's clean, it's fast, and it perfectly sets the stage for the heavier data to come. Which brings us right into section 3, presenting data effectively. How do we actually put this data into text without putting our reviewers to sleep? An absolutely crucial best practice here is keeping your prose clean. You definitely want to refer to your tables to highlight the major trends, but please, whatever you do, avoid the trap of rewriting every single number from the table in your text. Let a clean table do the heavy numerical lifting. If your table clearly states the mean is 81.20, don't write a whole paragraph repeating that exact same number ad nauseum. Just use the text to explain the trend, like saying, the experimental group outperformed the control group. And listen, it is no longer just about hitting that magic target of statistical significance. Recent ELT journals and top reviewers really demand that you move beyond just dropping p-values. Think of it this way. A p-value tells you an effect exists, but an effect size tells you if that effect is actually big enough to care about in a real-world classroom. So you absolutely must include those effect sizes, like Cohen's d or eta squared. But remember our golden rule. Do not interpret the educational meaning yet. We are still just laying out the facts. All right, section 4. Let's decode those inferential statistics, which are really the heavy lifters of this whole chapter. When you finally get to the complex math, you essentially need a formula for your writing. Whether you're running a basic independent t-test or some massive ANOVA, the methodology guides all agree that every statistical test needs a 4-step framework. First, state the hypothesis. Second, name the exact test you ran. Third, present the numerical results. And fourth, give a really brief, objective interpretation. Did you find a difference? And was the hypothesis supported? Do this for every single test, and your chapter is going to be basically bulletproof. And honestly, consistency is everything here. You have to use strict APA 7 formatting for all your statistical values. You'll notice really specific details, like italicizing the T, the P, the F, and getting the exact spacing right around the equal signs. Nailing these tiny details is exactly what signals to a reviewer that you are a meticulous, serious scholar. Okay, so your results are laid out perfectly. Now we shift gears entirely for Section 5, Mastering the Discussion chapter. This chapter has a totally different vibe and purpose. If the results chapter was the what, the discussion chapter is all about answering the so what. What do these findings actually mean, and why should anyone care? This is your moment to finally step back and explain the educational implications. How does your data actually change how we teach or how we design a curriculum? And, of course, this is also the space where you humbly admit the limitations of your study. One of the best ways to elevate this chapter is by mapping your specific findings directly to established ELT theories. Say your data showed a big increase in classroom interaction, well, tie that straight back to Long's interaction hypothesis. Or if your new teaching method reduced student anxiety, frame that within Krashen's effective filter. Doing this proves to your university that your math isn't just a bunch of isolated numbers, it actually has real-world pedagogical meaning grounded deeply in the science of language acquisition. Also, keep in mind that a strong discussion chapter does not exist in a vacuum. You're entering an ongoing academic conversation, which means you have to compare your work to previous studies. If your AI vocabulary results match perfectly with a study from 2022, definitely say so. But it's honestly just as important to discuss the differences. If your findings totally contrast with another major study, don't sweep it under the rug. Dive into why. Was your demographic different? Was the intervention shorter? Synthesizing all of this shows real, deep mastery of your field. Which brings us to our last stop, Section 6, the final polish, right before you hit submit. You really want to use a final checklist as your ultimate defense mechanism. Go through everything one last time. Did you explicitly answer every single research question? Is every table actually mentioned in the text before it pops up on the page? Did you report your statistical assumptions? Are those crucial effect sizes sitting right next to your p-values? Checking these boxes is what guarantees you haven't made those classic amateur mistakes, like trying to draw causal conclusions from a simple correlation or ignoring international formatting standards. So, as you finally sit down to draft these chapters, I want you to ask yourself this one final question. Does your thesis just report a bunch of p-values, or does it tell a genuinely compelling story about how to improve the English language classroom? Because when you structure things clearly, present the data well, and ground it all in established theory, you're transforming a basic math assignment into truly impactful research. Keep that in mind, and you're going to absolutely crush this. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer.